Hi guys, welcome back to the Soul Food Podcast, a safe space where we talk about God, theology, the Bible, and the Christian life in general. I'm your host, Noma. Last time, I spoke on 3 biblical examples of bad friends, namely Jonadab, Job's 3 friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, and Judas. In today's episode, I will be speaking on 5 personal examples of bad friends I've had in the past and the lessons I've learned from those experiences. Personally, in this day and age, I think we use the word friend too loosely. I was once on that table before God saved me, where anyone that I met, I referred to them as a friend, even if I just met them yesterday. Pre-Christ, anyone and everyone had access to my life and my heart, all in the name of friendships. Some that I stayed in far longer than I needed to, and others that should have ended at hello. It was only after God saved me that I realized that I really didn't know how to choose the right friends. My standards before then were too low and I had no boundaries. But such is life, you live and you learn. I feel like my 20s were a crash course into letting God order every aspect of my life. And one of those areas was in friendships. Some of the dictionary definitions of the word friend are: a person known well to another and regarded with liking, affection, and loyalty. A supporter, an acquaintance, or associate. I don't know about anyone else, but my definition of friendship has evolved over the years. But simply put, to me, a friend is a godly, trustworthy person assigned by God for me to do life with. What that means is that our values and our morals and our worldviews are aligned. And there's actually a purpose that God has put us together as friends. With that being said, here are the 5 types of bad friendships I've experienced in my lifetime. Category number 1 is what I call the backstabbing or two-faced friends. These are the people that talk bad about you behind your back, but smile to your face. Real life story, guys. This happened to me twice, as far as I know. But on 2 separate occasions, 2 old friends of mine that I met at different stages of my life used to talk about me behind my back while smiling to my face, pretending we were cool. The funny thing is that neither of them ever said anything to my face, but somehow it got back to me that they've been talking bad about me behind my back. The crazy thing about these 2 friends was that, given how close we were, no one would think it was possible for either of them to be talking negatively about me behind my back. But that's how sly and shifty these sorts of people were. They hid their insincerity that well and clearly felt no way about living a double life. To me, a two-faced friend is the real definition of a fake friend. Category number 2 is what I call the fair weather friends. Guys, I had this friend, and I use that term extremely loosely here, who essentially, for a lack of better words, discarded our friendship group for a situationship. If you don't know what a situationship is, it is an undefined romantic relationship. Don't get me wrong, sometimes when your friend gets into a serious relationship or even married, naturally, the dynamics of your friendships are subject to change. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not what I'm talking about. This so-called friend I'm talking about here, though she discarded a whole friendship group, would only reach out to some of us when she needed money or her situationship went belly up. She basically tried to use us like we weren't onto her. And eventually we all stopped investing in that friendship because it was one-sided. None of us could rely on her for anything. And what I've learned is that these sort of people don't value you. They only value what they can get from you. Category number 3 are the entitled friends. The word entitled means assuming or acting as though one has an innate right or claim to something. I had these 2 friends that invited me to events they were hosting that I couldn't attend, and as a result, they caught an attitude about it. Again, don't get me wrong, I understand the frustration and even annoyance that comes from putting together an event and the people you invite can't make it. Well, not everyone anyway. Eventually you get over it because there's a general understanding that we all have our own lives and we're all doing our own thing. Even if I'm annoyed, I'm not going to walk around with a chip on my shoulder like I'm entitled to your time. It's just not that deep. But these people I'm talking about really showed their entitlement when they caught an attitude about my non-attendance. And since then, nothing was the same. So of course, naturally, those friendships fizzled out because I'm not going to chase you and force you to talk and tell me that something is wrong. That's your prerogative. Category number 4 is what I'm calling the contemptuous friend. The word contempt means disdain, scorn, or the state of being despised. It's essentially hatred. And one day I was sitting on my bed messaging someone I used to be friends with, and the Holy Spirit said to me, don't message her again. She's had something against you in her heart ever before you two stopped being friends. Guys, when I say it shocked me, I was completely floored when I heard this because of how close we once were. I couldn't help but think, how long had they held me in contempt for all that time they were in my life? And I've asked the Holy Spirit this question repeatedly, and he hasn't answered me yet. But I know that he told me that much, on one hand to give me closure, and on the other hand to let me know that the end of that friendship is permanent. So I know to never go back to it. That whole situation taught me that anyone that holds you in contempt, number 1, actually hates you and is merely pretending to be your friend. What was so wild to me is the fact that this person was intentionally getting close to me whilst they had hate in their heart towards me. And for however long they hated me for means that they weren't a genuine friend to me. And in reality, our friendship ended before it officially ended. I just didn't know it. When the Holy Spirit told me this about this ex-friend of mine, I was in so much shock that my initial response was like, God, nah, not this person. Can someone really hate you and yet act like a friend? Is this even possible? I was in utter disbelief. And that's when the Holy Spirit began ministering to me about Judas and Jesus' relationship and the fact that this is a real thing that some people do. I go into more detail about this in part 1, but long story short, Judas was one of the original 12 disciples that Jesus handpicked. He walked in close proximity with Jesus during his entire public ministry, which lasted for 3 years. Everywhere Jesus went, with the exception of when he was in solitude, Judas came along. And the modes of transportation back then weren't exactly built for comfort. So from the outside looking in, one would think that Judas was dedicated to the cause of Christ because he walked with him, claiming to be his friend. Meanwhile, for a good majority of the time that Judas spent in Jesus' company, he was plotting on how to set him up to get killed. And as hard as it was for me to accept this about this person, I know for a truth that the Holy Spirit does not and cannot lie. The truth of the matter is that anyone in your life that hates you whilst claiming to be your friend is a frenemy, and more than likely has been doing you wrong behind your back. You just don't know it. You cannot build or have a friendship with anyone that holds you in contempt. Those are the biggest lessons I've learned from that whole experience. So I thank God for who he is and the mysterious ways he uses to expose people's hearts and intents to me, because people in this category are not as good at pretending as they think they are, simply because you cannot mask contempt for too long. It will eventually show up. On a micro level, it will come across as microaggression, the little snide comments or underhanded remarks that gets played off as jokes. On a larger scale, it will look like what Judas did to Jesus, because anyone that hates you can kill you or get you killed. So I'm extremely grateful to God for removing all these bad friends from my life. It's such a relief. Category number 5. Last but not least, the jealous and competitive friends. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a healthy aspect of competition. For example, in a sporting event, competing to win a debate or a quiz, or even for a promotion at work. Anyone who knows me knows I'm very competitive in those scenarios. Those are normal. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the so-called friend that's jealous of you and as a result is in silent competition with you. And I say silent competition because you don't even know that you two are competing. You're just getting on with your life as normal. I remember seeing a post on Instagram last year that said, jealousy is the last step before you become a full-blown witch. And I couldn't agree more, because It's that jealousy component that makes these types of friends dangerous. The raw truth about this type of friend is that they low-key resent you, which is why they are competing with you in their minds anyway. And you cannot walk with someone that hates you or resents you or holds you in contempt. That's an op. So what does a jealous friend look like? For me, they either copied everything that I did or couldn't enjoy high points in my life with me. So guys, be mindful of people that struggle to let you celebrate the wins in your life or that cannot celebrate with you. Have you had any experiences of bad friends? Share in the comments and let us know how you dealt with it. A couple other extra examples I can think of in my life without going into much detail are, if you ever hear anything personal that you shared with an individual during the course of your friendship outside, best believe that's not their first time breaking confidentiality. Number 2, they try to turn others against you simply because your friendship with them ended, or they go around spreading lies and rumors about you. These are also signs of a bad friend. In summary, hindsight is such a powerful thing because it gives you a vantage point into your past, which comes with closure and a better perspective of why certain things happened or had to happen. Looking back, I can honestly say that I'm grateful to God for all the bad friends that are no longer in my life. The Lord has taught me so much about relationships in general and is still teaching me. And one thing I know for sure is that He is so particular about who we give access into our life to, because friends can either push you closer to God and fulfilling His purpose for your life, or be a hindrance. So let's keep being mindful and discerning of the types of people we let enter and stay in our lives as friends. That's all for today. Join me next week for part 3, where I will discuss some biblical examples of good friendships. The Soul Food podcast is available on all streaming platforms, including YouTube. So please share and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram at the Soul Food podcast to stay connected. Thank you for tuning in today. Until next time, peace and blessings.